Hey everyone, Logan Keister out here somewhere in the Nevada desert on the outskirts of Las Vegas. Not quite sure how I ended up here, but hey, I'm here. And kind of happy to be here, escaping the cold, wet weather we've been having in the middle of February in Oregon. So I want to stop to show you this cool plant here next to me and take a look at one of its photosynthesizing stems here. So this here we have is Ephedra. And I'm assuming it's Ephedra nevadensis, but I can't tell for sure because I don't have any flowers right now in the middle of February to key it out and determine exactly what species it is. But Ephedra nevadensis is pretty common to this area. So I'm just going to guess with that for now, although I know there are a couple. I think there's a Toriana species as well. And so Ephedra is a pretty interesting plant. If I was able to find flowers, I'd also have to determine whether it was a male or a female plant. So it's a dioecious species, meaning it has separate male and female plants, which is actually kind of uncommon in the plant kingdom. Usually you'll find more hermaphroditic plants with perfect flowers. So if this were to be a male plant, you'd be finding these male pollen cones. They got covered in this yellow pollen, and they look kind of, yeah, just like a little cone that you see at the tips of these photosynthesizing stems. And they're called sporangiophores. And if I was to see one of the female plants, it would have these little seed pods on them. They kind of form in the little nodal junctions near the top. And I'm not sure if this one makes the seed pods similar to the Ephedra sinica I was working with at Strictly Medicinal, but if it did, you'd see these little seed pods. Like, to me, they always looked like little pinky purple sumo wrestlers. They're like little puffy little guys that had like multiple, like a little head, a little fat belly, little fat arms. And it would typically have a couple seeds inside each of those seed pods, more or less depending on how it was fertilized and whatnot. But it was very nice because we'd take the seeds out, but I loved eating the little outer shell because it's very mucousy, gelatinous, and demulcent, which is pretty nice when you're out in a hot desert to find something that actually has something to help wet your whistle, so to say. Get a little mucilage in there, a little nice watery, mucousy texture that helps to moisten the throat. But most people who are using this medicinally would be looking at other effects from it. So for instance, another species that we find out in our southwestern deserts is Ephedra viridis, commonly found in Utah, where it gets its common name of Mormon tea. So it gets this name because in the Mormon faith, you know, you're not supposed to have caffeine, no coffee, no tea, no black tea, no yerba mate. So you had to go find alternative sources of stimulation that didn't contain caffeine. So Ephedra, you may notice, actually has the name like similar to ephedrine or pseudoephedrine, or the drug we would often see promoted as Sudafed, which we don't really see on the shelves these days because it was commonly taken and used to make amphetamine. A lot of people are stealing it for that. But these ephedrins, pseudoephedrins, they're sympathomimetics. So essentially they help to mimic adrenaline. So they give you kind of a adrenaline, sympathetic fight or flight response when consumed in sufficient quantities. You know, this species out here, the nevadensis, is pretty mellow in its stimulating capabilities. I chewed on a few stems and yeah, I definitely feel a little bit of stimulation, but it's nothing that'll really make me feel like I just got kicked with a shot of adrenaline like a bear was chasing me, or I just like jumped out of an airplane. But it's enough that it kind of gave me a little boost, and actually noticed it helping to clear the lungs. So commonly, you know, Sudafed or ephedrine-based compounds traditionally were used for treating things like hay fever, allergies, asthma. And I see it really being useful for allergies. So in the grass capital of the world, which is Oregon, you get a lot of pollen in the air, and people typically get this runny nose, puffy eyes, like itchy sinuses. And essentially it's kind of nice because it's got a little bit of astringency to it, so it's drying, so it helps to dry up those excess mucus secretions. But it also has that kind of stimulating effect. So when we're comparing a sympathetic adrenaline response, the opposite to that would be a parasympathetic response, which is our rest, repair, relax, digest, heal. that kind of response, because, you know, when you're getting chased by the bear, you know, or jumping out of an airplane, your body's not thinking about working on digesting that meatball sub you had for breakfast. It's not thinking about healing the little boo-boos on the bottom of my barefoot feet from walking through the desert and stepping on cactuses. It's not thinking about, you know, your, you know, kind of like dealing with all the itchy pollen that's in your nose. It's really focused on getting the heck away from that bear that's chasing after, silly. So when we're working with these kind of medicines, it's kind of giving us that stimulation response that's kind of getting our body out of that kind of rest and repair response, which essentially is what an allergy response is. It's an overactive immune response, and our immune system is very much connected with the parasympathetic region of our central nervous system. So it's more connected with that rest and repair versus our fight or flight response. So in that reason, this plant has to be used very wisely. And in fact, the Ma Huang Ephedra variety is not allowed to be sold in herbal medicine, or are you allowed to make medicine with it, because it was abused for a while. You know, in my personal opinions, you know, I think all plants should be legal regardless of people's abilities to do stupid things with them. You know, people being dumb and abusing things shouldn't be a reason to make things illegal, in my opinion, personally. So in that way, we're not really allowed to sell or make medicine with the Ephedra sinica anyways. I'm not sure if we're not allowed to with this. I at least know you're allowed to pick a little bit and give it a little chew while you're walking around, but I'm not going to come out of here making a bunch of tincture with it. You know, one year I did harvest some and it got kind of old. I left it around for a while, so it kind of lost the ephedrine. But one nice thing about it though is it's really high in magnesium, because you got to think, every single chlorophyll cell has a little magnesium ion right in the center of it. So the magnesium's right in the center, and it's kind of what helps to take that sunlight energy beating down on it and turn it into carbon sugars for the plant to grow and build with. So in that way, these stems are very high in magnesium. They have a really high concentration. And I know there's some other medicinal uses, but you know, as someone from Oregon, I don't get many chances to work with this. I mostly know of its uses in traditional Chinese medicine for working with asthma, allergies, any kind of overactive healing response that you need to temporarily subdue down. It's not something that you'd want to be using in the long term, because it's very much a suppressive remedy, even if you were in China or you were somewhere where you could work with this. And I think maybe acupuncturists are allowed to prescribe this remedy. So if you were maybe an acupuncturist, you may be able to subscribe this, but you know, it's very much a suppressive remedy. It's not really getting to the core issue of why someone's experiencing allergies or asthma. But certainly, you know, if someone's having a powerful asthma attack and they can't breathe, it's really nice to have an herbal remedy on hand that you could potentially use to stop that asthma attack. So we're not allowed to do that. So don't get any ideas from me promoting any use of doing that. You know, use your state recommended cortisone inhaler, your Nasosnort, you know, whatever the doctor gave you, use that, because that's what we're allowed to use, you know, whatever the doctor tells us to. Don't use what this herbalist is telling you, or this herbalist is telling you not to do this. Oh geez, okay, I'm giving myself a headache just thinking about all these regulations. This message was not federally approved by the FDA, so hopefully that saves me from any potential trouble I get from posting this. Oh, geez. But I feel like it's a good thing to know about these uses, these traditional uses of plants, these ones that we can find really readily around us. And it's just a really cool plant too. So next time you come around the desert, just appreciate the cool dioecious photosynthetic stems of this amazing desert plant that's so well adapted to this hot, dry environment. All right, I guess I've gotten myself in enough trouble already. I probably should find my way out of this desert. Stuff's probably getting me overstimulated. All right, Logan Keister, signing out.